are already there. They're way beyond a lot of us in this room, but there's a whole lot that aren't. And there are a lot of faculty across the country that aren't. We've got great early adopters. One of our faculty, my faculty from last year, is here. We're really glad to have you here. But very few. You know, where's the rest of the faculty? And so we have a lot of work to do in higher education and K-12 to really help the faculty start embracing these new tools on a more regular basis. And that's no easy job. So we've got to build online professional development systems. We've got to really spend a lot of time bringing in new faculty. Arnie Duncan's going out around the country, our secretary, talking about the fact that between now and 2014, we're going to need to hire 1 million more teachers for the K-12 system. What an opportunity for us to really talk about digital literacy in our faculty, in our teachers, in our professors in higher education, so that we can have a professoriate in higher education and we can have K-12 classroom teachers, much like that young student in the slide, that take technology for granted and they're on to the applications. They're on to the implementation side. They know what a developer is, and they are really using the social networks to really learn from and share their competencies with their colleagues and with experts around the country. So I'm very excited about all the social learning network research. Federal government has a lot of work to do in showcasing the results of a lot of the research, of a lot of the new applications. We have done not a good job either identifying where those results are that make a difference, and then leveraging them, scaling them, helping people use them across the country to improve learning and success as well as access. Right now, because of the economic downturn and so on, we have hundreds of thousands of students clamoring to get in the doors at all levels. But when you think about going forward, you really want to redesign an infrastructure that's going to just take access for granted, get people in the door whenever they want to come into the door, especially for higher education, 24/7. But once they get in that door, ensure that they are going to move through successfully. One of the biggest challenges that the Obama administration has shown a spotlight on, and this was evident when the president talked about becoming the most highly educated, most competitive workforce in the world in April, and then in July when George and I were in Warren, Michigan, and President Obama announced the American Graduation Initiative, was to really look at, what is it going to take to do this between now and 2020, because in that he talked about 30 of the fastest growing fields requiring a minimum of the baccalaureate degree. He talked about the fact that only half of the students in higher education are getting a degree or a certificate within 6 years. How many went through in 4? Raise your hand if you went through in 4. Great, congratulations. It's not that way anymore. People are working. How many didn't have to work? I had to work actually, but a lot of students didn't have to work 20, 30, sorry to age you all out, but 20 or 30 years ago, and it's not that way anymore. So it is taking students longer, but part of it is our responsibility. They don't have the classes. We don't have the funding to give them the classes. They don't have the money. Texas did a study, sorry for mentioning Texas twice, but they come quite often to Washington, and that's one thing in the first 6 months, how many states come into our office and tell us what they're doing. Well, they did this one thing over the last 4 years where they decided as a state they were going to identify any student in a community college or a university in Texas that left school for whatever reason. We don't use in higher ed the word dropout, right? But they left school, and to try to get them back. Could we bring them back in America? And I thought, this is very creative. What happened? What results did you get? And what they did was they actually found the students, and of that they brought back half of them. The students were very grateful for being found. Mostly when they asked students why they left, it had nothing to do with the quality of the higher education they had received. These were students that received 100 or more semester units of college. So, when you think about the different sectors of education, and especially, I came from a community college, and I think, well, could the community colleges go after students that had completed the freshman year? We know that if you complete the freshman year, you are a likely candidate to succeed and get a degree and go on either into the workforce or transfer at a higher level of attainment. So you may have a job in college, but then when you leverage up, you're going to be laddering up to, a higher paying job. That's hopefully one of the goals of higher education, in addition to helping students learn how to think critically, which is what, the challenge of technology is not to do a Google search. I love Google. I grew up with Google in California for the last many years, but the challenge is to look at the information you need when you need that information and rely on the information that is the valid and right information, not everything in the world. Because right now the American public just isn't ready with what I call sort of one of the new skills that we need to really be thinking about, the skill of selectivity. How do you know that the information that you're getting through technology is credible? And that's a huge question, and there's a lot of us spend a lot of time sorting through what we want and what we don't want. And I know there are great and much more sophisticated search engines and artificial intelligence applications that are going to help us get closer to high quality information. But that really is one of the keys of American higher education and K-12 that we need to really get our hands on the very best of the best for this country to move forward. And I think, those of you who are in the development world, really showing us and putting a call out for competitiveness that's going to really rely on helping us access the highest quality information, the best of the best for the American education curriculum. Because we don't have that. I was just looking at the results of a study that was analyzing the syllabuses of courses in higher education, in schools of education, and there was tremendous variation on what was taught and the quality of that information. And I think there'll be a report coming out of it on that sometime this spring. And again, it's the same issue. Where are the best programs? How can we replicate them? How can we learn from them? And how can we make them pervasive so that when students are entering higher education, the expectation is they will get a high quality education, whether they do it fully online or partially online and hybrid, or face-to-face or a combination thereof, and come out in less than 6 years, complete college, get a better paying job if they're already working, with the 2/3 that are already working, and understand that they're going to have to continue learning throughout their lifetime. In our situation, many of us, trained for a field and didn't transfer across fields. Students today are going to have to really transfer across 5 or 10 different jobs and probably several different fields. And so the experience that we're thinking about going forward has to be a very different trajectory to understand that we're going to have students who are going to change jobs and change careers multiple times. We saw that in Silicon Valley, in the dot-com bust. And we had, especially in our schools and our community colleges, thousands of people coming back to train from computer science into bioscience. So we couldn't offer enough chemistry and bio classes online and hybrid and, face-to-face because a whole field was ramping up for nanotechnology and new careers in healthcare and other kinds of things. I got a proposal actually the last couple of weeks. I think it's announced now. It's a partnership. You'll see us doing more to partner with other federal agencies as well. And I'll talk for a minute about the Department of Education. It is a tiny department. It's one of the smallest in government. We have 4,000 people. We have 1,000 people in federal student aid managing. Those 1,000 manage $650 billion in assets and $113 billion every year that goes into federal student aid. That's about 1/3 of students in this country. And the president has been very clear that we want to reach into the diverse communities and get many more students from low-income families coming into higher education in the next decade. So you'll see a lot of discussion about direct lending and income-based repayment plans and public service service loan forgiveness. Those are already, the public service loan forgiveness is a strategy to get students to consider careers in public service. If you want to be a nurse in a county hospital, one of those million teachers in a K-12 school, and you come from a low-income family, we will forgive your loan for school if you stay in that field for 10 years, and you can income-based repay.